Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so happy you're here today. I'm always excited to interview strong female role models, and this person on the show today is a perfect example of really what it looks like to be a role model. My guest today is Chicago investor Farrah Ali. Farrah is a single mom with a full-time job, and in just 6 short years, she's become a rock-solid real estate investor. She has built an impressive portfolio of 28 properties. She has completed 1 flip, and she's done 16 wholesales, unless that's changed since I wrote this up. So welcome to the show, Farrah.
Thank you, Sharon, for having me.
So did I get that part right, the numbers right?
Yes, actually, I'm working on another flip right now.
Ooh.
So with the market the way it is, I'm just going to list it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'll just turn it into a rental.
Okay.
But
well,
yeah, I haven't done wholesale since.
As if she didn't have enough to do, she just completely redid her whole house. So she's kind of like Superwoman. So let's go back. I know you have a very demanding full-time job. And how did you first get started real estate investing while you were already working a very demanding job?
Well, I kind of had to look at other options of making money. So I was in a situation where, I got separated, I got a divorce. And during the separation period, I knew I wasn't going to get any child support because my ex was giving me a hard time. So the income from my job was good for the day-to-day expenses, but I knew as the kids were getting older and I had, 2 kids to support and be a sole provider for, I had to figure out how to make additional income. So I read a lot of books out there on wealth and how to increase wealth, and everything kind of led me into real estate. Mm-hmm. So what happened was I joined a program which kind of led me into going into a local real estate, Rehab. And from there, I got more information. It was local, and then I joined an educational program that really kind of got me going because I didn't really know anything about real estate. And the one thing is that you can't do it by yourself. You do need some education and the right education. So that's kind of how I got started. Is I joined the course, I learned the basics, and then I started investing from there.
Mm-hmm. So, but you first started with your REIA group.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think people are very quick to think that they can go along with the free stuff for a long time. REIA groups, which are great, but forums and things like that. But what I found over time is that they just couldn't put the pieces together. So they'd have the pieces maybe, but they didn't put it together. So I know you're a big fan of mentors. I'm a big fan of having mentors. And I think it's safe to say that having mentors early on has got to be a great big part of the reason why you are so successful.
Oh, 100%. There's probably no way I would have done what I've done if I didn't have the right mentor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Free stuff can only go so far, but the way I look at it is we spend a lot of money on, for even my kids, like going to college. We invest money in college. Mm-hmm. We should be investing in ourselves. And it's kind of like a college course, and they kind of teach you everything that you need to know, plus you have a support system to go to. So having a mentor and investing that money in a mentor is huge because they also feel responsible for your success as well. So, that's for me, that's what's really worked. And a lot of my friends who have mentors, that's what differentiates people who are successful and not successful, I've noticed, is having that mentor.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So what was your very first investing strategy?
So, so just so you know, my mentor was Andrew Holmes. He's out here in Chicago. He's huge here in Chicago. He's probably taught thousands of investors real estate. But he started by saying, hey, pick your areas and where you want to invest. So I started picking some areas, what we call B and C areas, where the price points are not, you're not picking houses that are like $400,000 or $500,000. Mm-hmm. I'm buying houses where they're probably under 120,000 with, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 rehabs. And I usually like to have at least 30% equity in my property. So my very first property was in a suburb called Lyons. and it was a brick 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. And I bought it for $75,000. This was back in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that we couldn't get into the house because it was one of those auction properties.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were kind of like trying to look through the windows to see, what the rehab price could be, so I would know what to bid on it. But again, that's where the mentor comes in, because me looking through a window, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell of major issues or anything like that. But because I had my mentor with me, he was able to kind of guess what it was, and that would be a safe investment. So anyways, I bought it for $75,000. I put about $18,000 into it, and it appraised for $145,000.
Wow.
Yes. So at that time, I didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have any money. So I had to be very, very particular in the property that I bought, because I had to make sure that I would have absolutely no money stuck in the property.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is you buy and you rehab, and then you refinance it. So because it appraised so high, I was able to pull all my money out and pay back my private money lender.
Mm-hmm.
And not have any of my own money stuck in the deal. So I had to kind of do that for my first 7 or 8 properties, just because I didn't have cash lying around.
But you were able to pull that money out, which gave you money. So that was a really good thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I know you have access to private lenders up there. Would you say that the Andrews educational program has helped you connect you to all those different pieces?
Oh, definitely. Yes, I probably have close to about 15 private money lenders available to me right now that I've actually already worked with. So, and that's all through the program. And the nice thing about it is that everybody kind of trusts each other. I mean, they know that you've been through the program and you know what you're doing, so they're a little more trusting. And we here get 100% financing, purchase and rehab, so that makes it really nice.
Lucky girl. So I would like to point out, though, that there are private lenders in every REIA group. You just may not know who they are. And once you prove yourself that you have a solid business model, that you know what you're doing, for the folks out there that think there's no money, there is money. It's not going to jump into your lap. You have to go find it and look for it. But there is private money out there.
Oh, definitely. People can go into their 401ks, IRAs and all of that to pull out money to lend to real estate investors. Now, you can't use it for your own investments, but you can definitely lend to other investors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an important point to make there. So was your first deal, you kept it as a rental, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did. Yes.
So how did the trajectory of that go then, like your next house? At what point did you start, did you go with rentals initially and then you did a flip in there somewhere, or you started wholesaling? How did all that come together?
So, you really want to build wealth. If you really want to build wealth, what you want to do is go to rentals if you can. Now, everybody's situation is different. So I had a W-2, I had a pretty good job. So because I was using my day-to-day expenses were being taken care of my full-time job. So I didn't need the cash flow or money from a flip to live off of. Mm-hmm. So I went straight to rentals. So that's kind of all I did for the past 6 years, is mostly rentals. Now, if you notice, there's a flip in there. Mm-hmm. And what happened that year, that was in 2016, is that I actually got let go from my job. And it was shocking for me because I had been there 15 years and I just received a 15% raise just a couple months before. So, I didn't know what to do at that point. Yes, I got a severance, but I'm so specialized in my field that it took me 8 months to find a job. So what I did was, there was a property that I was working on, and I decided to flip it instead of rent it, so that I would have money to live off of in case, it took me longer to find a job. So that's kind of where that flip came from, was just to get some money to live off of. But with my, the way that I've been able to get some money is when I refinance it, and because it appraises so high, if I choose to, I can pull a little bit of money out. Now, I don't recommend that because it affects your cash flow. But since, like I said, I don't need the money to live off of, I'd rather have, $500-600 a month cash flow and pull as little as I can out of a refi.
So, so what's your plan to pay those off? You have a plan to pay those off?
I do. So right now I'm going to slow down on purchases. What I'm going to do is do more wholesales and some flips. And I want to take the money from there and pay off the 28 rentals that I have. So that's going to be my new strategy. I did want to mention, I did do 16 wholesales, and why I did those was because there was a point where I had so many deals that I was working on with the full-time job and the 2 kids and everything else that I got going on. It was a little too much for me. So when I realized at one point I had 9 deals going on and I've gotten two more under contract, I decided, hey, why not wholesale? They were really good deals. So, having that whole network, it was very easy for me to find buyers.
Well, but I think it's important to note that you pivoted. So I think people, a lot of times they get so stuck in their strategy and what they're doing that they completely miss out on opportunities to do things a little bit differently that are very much to their advantage. So going back to your flip though, that was a strategy that anybody could put into place. Even if you're a buy and hold real, investor, and you have something happen, it could be like you lose your job. It could also be unexpected hospital expenses. It could be anything. But you could do the same thing with that. You could just change your strategy, come up with some cash. But the main secret in all of this is you had deal flow.
Yes. So that really, it took me probably a good 2 years to get really good at it, right? Like, you're not going to become a star overnight. Your first couple properties, you're probably, my first property, I got very lucky, but my second and third one, I've made money on all my properties, but my second and third one were a little bit more, I learned a lot. I still made money, but not as much as I made on my first one. But once I got the hang of it, then within 5 minutes or so, I would know over the phone, like, okay, this is going to be a good property or not. And I could even make offers sometimes without going to the property just because I knew the area already. I knew what type of house it was. I've done a house on the same street, that type of thing. So, but I think sometimes what people do is they get impatient and they're like, but they don't realize that the first year or two, you're actually learning. And that's what you should be, that's what you should hang your hat on is, hey, this is my learning experience right now. This is where I'm going to get good. And then from there, it'll start flowing in.
Yeah, I call it college.
Yeah, exactly.
School of Hard Knocks or college, depending on, if you can come out on a deal, maybe it's not a home run, but you learned something and you made a little money. I don't consider that to be a failure at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Yes.
So knock on wood, I never lost money on a deal, but I had a few that didn't turn out the way I hoped that were really skinny deals. But well,
that was how my flip was. My flip, I think I made like 11 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a lot of money at all. But for me, that meant the world to me because that for 2 months I had enough money to live off of. Mm-hmm. And then I found my job. Mm-hmm. So it was perfect, so it's always the way you look at things. Sometimes people are like, 11,000, that's nothing. Yeah, it's not but you know what? The situation that I was in, that was a lot to me.
Certainly that was perfect at the time. So you found another job, and I know a little bit about you. You commute downtown, which I'm always trying to go, how does she do that and do all of this? Because I know it's not easy to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about time management. So you're a single mom, you commute downtown, and that's all time. I hear a lot of times people say, I just don't have time. So you obviously found time. So how did you do that?
It's a lot about just prioritizing what you want in your life at the moment. You can always find time for whatever you want. I mean, think about it in our own lives, like if we really want to do something, we will make the time for it. So it's just about prioritizing. I mean, there's certain things that you have to get smarter about. I'm not going to spend 4 hours, 5 hours a week cleaning. Like, that's just something that I would rather take my time. I hired somebody that would come and clean my house on a weekly basis, so that I could take that time and use it towards real estate. There's always little things here and there that you can do. I don't go and I'm not going out partying or anything like that. My friend circle are all real estate investors. Going to the RIAs, that's my social circle. So you kind of, whatever you want to get into, that's kind of what you surround yourself with, and then things just start happening. So a little bit of prioritizing, being smart about how you use your time. I think that's probably what it is. Like, if I'm going on the train and I'm going to be on a train for about 45 minutes, then I'm checking emails, I'm looking for properties online. Everything's so sophisticated now with technology, there's nothing that you really can't do. So just things like that, strategies that I would use.
Well, in a sense, people look at commuting as totally a bad thing, but sometimes commuting, to me, back when I did it for a long time, it was a time to clear my head. Certainly I was driving, so I wasn't looking for properties online, but it was just time. It gives you time to regroup. And certainly now, like you said, you take the train, so you can actually work on your real estate business while you're commuting.
Definitely, yes. And then with my kids, I get them involved at times as well, so that I'm spending time with them. So they'll come with me to look at a property, or just driving around. So it's like a win-win, because you're spending quality time, but the kids are also learning what you're doing, and they're kind of seeing their mother doing this. And it's nice because my son, he actually ended up getting his first property.
Oh, so, really?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Your oldest son?
My oldest son, yeah, he did. So, and it's because he's been watching me for the past 5 years. And so sometimes, like, I have felt guilty as a mother. Sometimes, did I spend enough time with my children or not? But when you start seeing that kids are taking interest in what you're doing, you're like, okay, I think I did the right thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I think we've all had jobs, and jobs are good, and certainly that's what some people are always going to do, is they're always going to have a job. But I like for the kids to see that there is another way. Dragging your kids to closings, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's important for them to see how you make money, and if it's looking at houses or whatever it is, I think it's your duty to show your children the entrepreneurial world. That's just my feeling. So you addressed one of the questions I was going to ask you about having help at home. Now, some people are probably going to say, I can't do that. And what's your answer to that? Do a house and put some money aside, or?
For owning your own home?
No, for having somebody clean your home, or get your groceries, or whatever it is you need help with.
Yeah, it's, I would definitely say, so you have to kind of you have to figure out how much is your own time worth, right? So for me, I kind of put a number to that. Like, if I knew that if I spent, what is my time worth every hour, right? So let's just say I say my time, I'm just going to throw a number out there, is worth $50 an hour, let's just say, right? So if I can take that time and invest it somewhere else where I know the returns are going to be even more than that, why not hire somebody for $20 an hour to clean your home?
Right.
It's a mentality thing. I know some people are thinking, well, if I give away $100 a week, that's $100 less in my pocket. But they're not thinking that time, that $100 could actually turn into $5,000-$10,000, because when I was wholesaling, I was spending time looking for properties. That's exactly what happened.
I think that's such an important mindset for people to get. You really hold yourself back doing everything yourself. And that's probably one of the first places where you should get help, is in your house. And maybe you can't have someone every week. Start with every other week, but take that time that it takes you to clean your house and get somebody, and then work on your real estate business. Look for deals, do your marketing, whatever it is.
But Sharon, what the thing with that is, you don't really know that until you actually go through it. You don't. Right? So until you're like, okay, wait, like I just spent yesterday 5 hours, looking at properties, right? And it actually turned into getting a deal. When you actually do it is when it really hits you.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same thing was happening with managing my properties, because right now I'm managing all the properties myself. And I have a contractor that also does handyman services, so I'm able to just send them out whenever work is done. But as time goes on, even when I'm looking for tenants, there's people where they're willing to go out there and show properties. And I was able to have somebody in our own group, local mastery group, who's an agent. They went and they go show my properties when it's ready to rent. And so why does it matter to me? I don't have to go out there and show properties. I'll just pay them whatever their, half a month or month rent, whatever it is. I do 2-year leases. So why not? Like, we can't be like everything in it for me. It's got to be a win-win. It's a win-win. Like, I save time. I can take that time and use it elsewhere and let him show the properties. And if he makes $1,000, then he makes $1,000. So just those sort of things that really help.
Well, I have a friend who is actually coming on my podcast again in a couple of weeks, and he always says that your job is to make yourself irrelevant to your business, except to be the face of your business. So your job is to get out of all of those jobs so that you can actually be the CEO of your business. And he is masterful at systems and outsourcing and things like that. So I think that's important, but I think you're right. Until somebody actually says what you said, I spent 5 hours cleaning my house and I could have been looking at property during that time. They really don't understand the power of this statement.
Exactly. And one of my bosses that at one of my old companies, she actually taught me, she said, whatever I give you to do, you should learn it, but then you need to delegate it.
Oh.
You should always have your time clear and free to start thinking of new ideas and doing other things. She's like, whatever I teach you, I want you to just teach it to somebody else. So that concept stuck with me. And that's kind of what I do with the real estate too, is like you said, the face of it. Mm-hmm. I'll go and look at the property and make sure it's a good deal. And then from there, you've got your attorneys, you got your contractor, you got your handyman, you got your agent, everybody else is doing the work.
Yep. Yeah. And then, so you can stay there and you can build the brand of Farrah and get people, which is really important, because then people bring deals to you.
Yes.
So it's not so much who you know, but it's about who knows you.
Exactly.
So that if you were doing every single job in your business, you do not have time to do that stuff, which is so important. I love what your boss said, by the way. That's really a great way to look at it. So where do you find most of your deals now?
Most of them are in the Chicagoland suburbs. So I haven't invested anything in the city of Chicago yet, just because I don't know the area that well, block by block. So I could be thinking something's a great street, but then the next street over is horrible, so I don't know. But the suburbs, Chicagoland suburbs, that's where I find my deals. So they're pretty much within a 25-mile radius of where I live.
Okay. Now, back when, if you were the one always going to your property, that would be in Chicago, 25 miles, that could be like 2 hours. So that's a trek. But if you have someone doing everything for you, then that's not even a particular concern anymore.
It's not. I mean, I get that question a lot. Like, why should I drive 25, 30 miles for an investment property? And I'm like, why wouldn't you? Like,
why wouldn't you?
You're going to get $400 or $500 a month for the rest of your life, if not more, after you get it paid off. Mm-hmm. Why not? You're really only going to your property during the rehab phase, mm-hmm. right? I mean, depending on the type of contractor you have and how much you trust them, some you may have to go visit your property every 2-3 days, mm-hmm. some of them once a week, some of them once every 2-3 weeks. But why wouldn't you drive, let's just say it's once a week on average, 20 for about a 4-month, 3-month time period. And then property management is all done over the phone. You don't have to go and collect rent. You don't have to go to the house to collect rent any longer. Everything's done online, or they mail a check. When there's something that's broken or needs repair, you text your contractor or handyman. They go out there for you. They tell you what the price is, and you say yes or no. They get it done, and you pay them. I mean, I'm not really going to my properties at all after they're rehabbed. I might just drive around if I'm in the area just to check it out to see how it's going. But with village inspections happening once or twice a year, with people moving out maybe every 2-3 years, you know, things like that, you can kind of keep an eye on your property. You'll kind of know how your tenants are based on, you know, who they are. And sometimes when there's maintenance calls, I'll tell my handyman or whoever it is, a plumber or electrician, hey, how did the property look when you went in there? Did it look like they kept it up? So those are all things, strategies you can use. It's not, you know, people are scared, but it's not that scary. You don't have to invest a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, and what I used to do was tell my contractor, while you're there, just tell the people you're going to run the water in the sinks and check and make sure there's no leaks, and have an excuse, check the furnace, check the filter, and that way you get an eyeball on pretty much every room and you can see if they're taking care of your property.
Exactly, exactly.
So do you get most of your deals from the MLS or from referrals? Do people bring you deals now, or where do your deals come from?
So the majority of my deals for the first 3 years was the MLS. And then from there, as I started doing deals and working with some agents, agents started kind of reaching out to me and before they listed it and say, hey, I have this property coming up. Do you want to take a look at it before I list it? So then if I go look at it and I do like it, then they won't list it and we'll just work something out together. So I would say about 50% of my deals now are through agents or wholesalers coming to me because now they know that I do real estate. And then the other 50% is still off the MLS. Now the MLS has gotten more competitive, but you could still get deals on the MLS as well. So it's a combination now of different avenues. Yeah.
How did you build those relationships with the realtors so that now they're bringing you their listings?
Well, when they see, so the first thing is if they see that you know what you're doing, and that's step number one. Like if I call and I'm talking to an agent and to them it seems like I'm going to close, I know what I'm talking about, they're more willing to work with me. And obviously if you close and you don't give a hard time and you don't come up with things to make life difficult for them, make it easy for them, they'll work with you and they'll continue calling you, because what agent is going to want to continue showing a property over and over and over again if they know that there's an investor out there that's easy to work with?
Now, are these distressed properties, or they just need updates? What's the general condition of the property?
They're pretty much mostly distressed. And sometimes there'll be a cosmetic rehab here and there, which I'm okay with because I wanted to appraise a lot higher. So when people know that they're distressed and then you put all this work into it, or they assume that you put all this work into it, it'll usually appraise a lot higher. So I rarely buy anything that's already done and just, because then I'm worried about the refi coming in.
That's not a great deal for you. On the refi. So
exactly.
Are you willing to take on big, hairy rehabs?
No, not at all. No, I stick to a formula that I know that works. I think doing big rehabs is a lot more riskier because it's harder to gauge the rehab budget. You'll have a budget, but with bigger houses, your budgets will probably go overboard, because you can always gauge, like if you have a small rehab of even, let's just say 25, 30 grand, even if you go over, you may go over by 5 grand, 6 grand, something like that, right? But on big projects, you can go anywhere between 20, 30, 40K overboard, and that'll just mess up the deal for you. So it takes more time. You have to put nicer finishes in those. So unless you get something really cheap and I still won't, because my experience isn't there. My experience is I have a formula. I know it works. I'm not gonna go and be creative and do new things at this point.
Yeah. So what you mentioned before, do you have an average of what generally your rehab might be?
My average is about 25,000.
25,000.
Yeah, about a 1,000 square foot home.
Okay, 25,000 for 1,000 square feet. So
Mhm.
what are you typically doing for that $25,000 rehab?
Usually it's the floors, paint, sometimes the HVAC. Um, it's just doing remodeling a bathroom, redoing a kitchen, just things like that. It's not a lot of like, I'm not, if I have to do a roof, it's going to be a lot more.
Hmm.
Siding, things like that will be a lot more. But generally, my average of my personal rehabs have been $25,000. Just
Okay, so it's partly because that's what you're looking for, but yeah, it would be more if you had a bunch of exterior work.
yes,
So you're
it's
not having to get into doing a whole lot of updating on wiring. I would assume what you mentioned something that is, I know that you all have that people don't know, and that is the village inspections. We
mm-hmm,
don't have those here. So landlords often, if they get a tenant in a house and for 5 years, unless they make a point to go out there and look at that house, there's no reason that anybody will even go into the house. There's no village inspection, none of
mm-hmm.
that. So that gives you all a huge advantage, actually. I know they're a pain in the neck sometimes, but gosh, that you get somebody in your houses to look at them a couple times a year.
Yeah, they do. It depends on the village. Some villages don't come out at all, but most villages, they probably come out once every 2 years just to make sure that the house is in good working order, the tenants, that they haven't destroyed anything. And of course, a lot of these villages are concerned that landlords aren't taking care of the properties either. So, they're trying to just make their village safe, the home safe for their residents. So yeah, there's pluses to that because I feel like if that's being done, people aren't taking advantage of each other.
Hmm.
And some people may think that that's a pain, but you know what? Like, I'd rather have a village that cares about their village. And I feel like the house prices are better and they're more stable in that area
Hmm.
because the quality of those homes are usually better.
When you find a property and you've been working all day, when do you go look at it? Do you go at night? Do you go on the weekends?
The night, the weekends before work, if I have time, just
Okay.
depend if if I if I happen to, be able to get in if they go that early. So it's just whenever, like if I'm at work and I find a property and I want it, I'm going right after work
Hmm.
because that becomes my number one priority at that moment. So if I have to get a babysitter, if I have to, like, hey sister, can you, watch my kids for a few hours? I need to do this. It's not happening every day, obviously, but if
Hmm.
there's a property that I feel that this is going to be a great property for me, I'll go right away.
I know that you're very, very focused on what you do. So let's talk a little bit about you've scaled up over 6 years. So your new plan is going to be to do wholesales and things to pay off some of your properties rather than to continue buying. Do you have a timeline that you hope to get that done by?
I would say within the next 7 years, I want to get everything paid off.
Everything paid off. Well,
Yes.
that's a very bold plan, but I'm sure you'll do it.
Now, what's tempting is if the market crashes and the prices get really low.
I know.
I don't know about, if I'm gonna, buy and not hold anymore. So it's tempting. I don't know yet.
Well, I can almost tell you you're going to do that. I know. Everybody's going to do that. If the market goes down and there's tons of deals, you'll probably do
Yeah, maybe I'll do combination of wholesales and rentals.
Yeah, and that's most likely what will happen because if you're doing any kind of marketing or networking, getting deals in the door, you will have properties that you don't want to hold that you'll buy and then just pass on to someone else.
Yeah.
So I know that you, along with a few other women in your area, have started a very group called We Win. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit.
So, once after doing this for 4 or 5 years and the amount of women that are being really successful doing this and a couple of our friends. So me and a friend of mine, Gina, we've always been passionate about helping other people, other women. And so we're like, hey, why not start a group, and let empower and let other women know that there are women doing this, because real estate's always been, in the past, at least my perception is, it's always been heavily male dominated field.
Mm-hmm.
Always hear about real estate agents being, women, but not investors.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that perception still lies. So we started a group called We Win. It's Women Entrepreneurs, Women Investment Network. And we try to do meetings at least once a month here in the Chicago area to encourage and inspire other women. Mm-hmm. And then we tell them about, what we've been doing for the past 4 or 5 years. And it's been really well. We've got really good response. There have been women who have actually started investing and have done really well. So it makes me feel good. It's kind of like, that phase in your life where you're like, okay, now, I have good income coming in. I'm still working. What's next? And for me, what was next was my higher purpose, right? So it's like, what can I do at this point to give back? Mm-hmm. So all the meetings have been free. So it's just a way for me to kind of give back to our local community, inspire, encourage other women. It doesn't matter if you don't have money, if you're divorced or whatever scenario, there's always something that people can do to better themselves. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. So we've been able to do that. We also started We Win non-for-profit, We Win Foundation, which is a non-for-profit, which, we want to try to collect funds. Right now, we're doing something for COVID, people who need assistance with basic necessities. We've been raising funds for that. But, the core of We Win Foundation is to hopefully, be able to give out scholarships, grants, and assistance to women and get them that financial literacy, that education that they need so that they can better themselves.
So it's 2 separate things then?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have women that are not investors in there that are from other types of business?
Yeah, we generally have people who are just entrepreneurs as well. People love to network, and it doesn't necessarily have to be real estate investment, even though the core is that, but people are getting business from each other. We'll have attorney come in, or we'll have we'll have appraisers come in, and just different people from different avenues, and we all just kind of try to help each other and connect with each other.
Well, I think I know you all have done a great job. You've grown the group to where it's a nice sized group. It's focused on education. I know you all do some mixers and things, but your core purpose is education, correct?
Exactly. That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Well, this has been a great show for us. Before we go, do you have any final advice for people? Because it seems like you could give them a lot of good advice.
For people who want to get started in real estate, like I said, there doesn't matter what situation you're in. Mm-hmm. You can always find a way to get in. So it doesn't matter if you don't have money or anything. Like I said, I didn't have any money when I actually joined that education program. I probably only had $200 or $300 in my bank account, and the education program was costly. But I don't know. There's something sometimes that I feel women have, and that's intuition. And at that point, I had that where I felt like, I don't care what happens. I'm gonna get into this program. So I personally put the money on my credit, the entire thing on my credit card, which I'm not saying that everybody should do, and that depends on who you are as a person. But for me, I know that I work really well under pressure. So I knew that if I had that high balance on my credit card, that there's no way that I'm not going to get a deal. So they kind of just pushed me and to get a deal within a month of, getting that education. So, but there's always a way for people who want. There's been a friend of mine who I never thought would get a deal, just because they're not the brightest person out there. However, because they hung out, they just kept coming, and they were so persistent, that person's got 8 or 9 deals right now. So it doesn't matter. That's what that taught me. It's just persistency and finding a way. So there's always a way for anybody. It doesn't matter what your circumstances. My second piece of advice is definitely get a mentor. That's really important. Somebody who knows what they're doing. It's important. Yes, make sure you research them, and not somebody. If someone's going to teach you real estate, they better have at least 20, 30, 40 properties, or don't learn from them. You want to learn from people who have that actual experience. I know, like for you, I want to get into probates one day. I just haven't, had the time to really go that avenue. But when I decide to do probates, I'm coming to you, So, so that's really important. I would say just believe in yourself, keep going, be persistent, and get the right person to help you.
Great advice. So thanks again, Farrah. And what's the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to ask you something?
So we have a website for We Win. It's wewinchicago.org. So you can always check us out there. There's a way to contact us through there. But if people want to contact me personally, I can give you my email address, which is Farrah, Farrah, Ali, Ali. So Farrah Ali 777@gmail.com.
Okay. So thanks so much again. And thanks to all the listeners that are listening to the show. And if you like the show, please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We would so much appreciate it. So have a great week, and we'll see you next time. And bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.